Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Brainstorm, Wall of Skulls, out September 17th on AFM Records. This album has 12 tracks, 50 minutes in length, and this is the band's 13th full-length studio album. They are a German power metal band. Now, this is a record that offers a lot of ebbs and flows from track to track. It doesn't have a linear approach, and I love that. When you talk about power metal, when you talk about an album that's going to come at you with force, with speed, with intent, with a lot of strength all around, you want to create as many ebbs and flows as possible so that the songs feel different, sound slightly different, and when you get to the end of the album, you don't just feel like you listen to just a really long track, but you can actually define the parameters that took each song to where they needed to go. So this to me is a very important element for a record like this, for a record that has this soundscape, to be able to navigate itself through ups and downs, through peaks and valleys, ebbs and flows, whatever you want to refer it, but allowing the listener to have a different experience almost at every turn without not necessarily having to reset, and still feel like you're connected with the record, connected with the tracks, and the whole album is as one. That's exactly how this record is put together. That's exactly how this album feels. When you get into the soundscape of the record, it's definitely an album that has tons of power. I mean, it's really a power metal record across all the different elements. And the main elements that really push that power forward are the drums, guitars, and vocals. These three elements drive the overall experience, and those ebbs and flows that I was talking before in terms of the construction of the record are really defined by what these three elements are doing on any given track. When you look at the drums, the heaviness that the drums have, the consistency of heaviness that the drums provide to this record is outstanding. But it's also outstanding the sound that they have. They feel full, they feel warm, they feel like they have a little bit of life in them, and they sound extremely well balanced throughout this whole record. So you may get a little bit more strength in one song, you may get a little bit less strength in another song, but the way they sound, the way they're perceived by the listener, the way they come across, and how they fill in all the gaps within the soundscape stays very natural. It stays very consistent from top all the way to the bottom. The other element is the guitars. The guitars really drive the experience as well, perhaps not with as much heaviness on a consistent basis as the drums do. They're a little bit more diverse, they go a little bit more in different ways, but they still that motor that drives the experience, that drives this record, that gives you that push forward at every single turn. The guitar solos fit perfectly within each and every single song. Sometimes you feel like a solo is there just because it kind of needs to be there, or people expect it to be there. On this record, I felt like every single guitar solo added value to the song construction, added value to what the track was trying to achieve, to what the track was trying to do. And they became very integral parts of the songs and the overall feel that this album has, creating a little bit of a pause here and there, exploding the track in some other cases, but always going towards what the track was doing and what the track was trying to give to the listener. So magnificent work from the guitars top to bottom. The other element that drives the experience is the vocals, like I mentioned before. The vocals on this record are outstanding. There's a couple of guest vocalists on the album. PV from Rage and Sieb from Ogan are on this album on two different tracks. But I honestly don't really feel like this album needed extra singers or guest singers. I mean, it's a nice little touch, it's a nice little flair. It's always nice to go through a record and have a few guest appearances here and there. It changes your perception of the songs. It allows them to do a little bit more with certain tracks going a little bit of a different direction. But Andy is phenomenal vocally on this record, top to bottom. And I always felt like he was there to enhance what the track was doing musically with his voice and try to be that third partner into the overall dance mix that was happening with the drums and guitars. Everybody's moving on separate lanes, these three elements are, but everybody is moving at the same speed at the same time towards the same destination. And that is really the strength of this overall record, is the strength of these three elements coexisting with one another, not overstepping one another, and always pushing forward with a lot of power, with a lot of force, creating the soul, the heartbeat, the spinal cord of the album from the first track all the way to the last. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Solitude. The church piano with vocals as the opening is just phenomenal. I just love this start. It's very somber. It sets the mood for what the rest of the song is going to be. The verses are a little bit more methodic, so they build in from that piano, from those vocals. The verses become a little bit more methodic. The chorus has more volume. It becomes bigger. It's a little bit more explosive. The backing vocals help make the chorus that more bombastic. It gives volume, it gives strength without having to change too much to the vocal range. So I really like that aspect. And then the solo really caps off the song, because the solo feels like it extends the track, that gives a little bit of life to this song, it gives it a little bit of energy. So the solo really caps this track well. It's a really well constructed and executed song all around. Next we have My Dystopia. Great drums from the beginning. They really become the backdrop of what this song is all about. Everything else is built or constructed on top of what those drums sound and feel like. The guitars and vocals push the track forward. They're more of the momentum givers to the song. The chorus is super catchy, something that's true throughout this record. They really created an album that's very hooky, very catchy at every single turn. These choruses are always very memorable, but they also have their own different spice that allows these songs to feel separate or different from each other, but still be able to coexist on the same record. This song, My Dystopia, really feels that way, and when you get to the chorus, it really becomes big and it feels the strength is all there to push the track forward. A very balanced song, a song that doesn't have as much of a break between the verses and the chorus in terms of what's happening. It feels more balanced, it feels more linear in its approach, but the chorus, the way it's perceived, it almost adds a cinematic vibe to how this overall song comes together. Last but not least, Holding On, one of my favorite tracks. It has a little bit of a synth 80s sound style at the beginning. Then the bass comes in and the bass becomes the predominant motor of the track. Perhaps one of the few tracks on this album where there's a specific portion of the song where you could really hear the bass and you could really hear what the bass is doing. Then the song opens up a little bit more. It starts to grow, it starts to progress, it starts to move. The vocal choir in the chorus is really what sets this song apart. There are some musical elements that set it apart, like the bass and the synthesizers that then come in a little bit later throughout the track, so you get some sprinkles of it. You got a little bit more at the beginning, but then you get some sprinkles throughout. But what really I felt that set this song apart was that choir style chorus, that it's so big, it really jumps off and it makes this song feel very powerful because there's a lot of volume, there's a lot of voices. It doesn't really create heaviness, but it expands the footprint of the song. It makes the song feel a lot bigger, even musically, than what it really is from the start all the way to the finish. It's a very nice, softer track perhaps because it's not a really heavy song. It doesn't have the same heaviness of the drums and guitars as the two previous tracks, so it's a softer track, but that choir and the chorus really makes volume. It really makes the song feel big. So while the song doesn't necessarily have the heaviness that creates that sense of being larger than life, the choir and the vocals in the chorus do that instead. So I really like how this track is put together. This is it, Brainstorm, Wall of Skulls, out September 17th on AFM Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.